Testing one, two. Okay. Hey, everybody, and welcome back to Cool Beans Hot Stuff. Today is Mental Health Mondays, which means we're going to go over a mental health topic. And if you saw the title of the stream, I'm assuming you're here because you were interested in it. Today, we're going to talk about the mind body connection, the connection between exercising and your mental health. And this is actually a stream I made about 2 months ago. This is one of the first streams that I ever put together, and then I never did it. And I think I never did it because after I put it together, I felt like people probably wouldn't be interested in it. It wasn't, the mind body connection has been done to death. Everybody's been told about it. It seems like there's no shortage of videos of people talking about that. So I figured, well, maybe it's not that interesting of a topic, I guess. But today it seemed timely to do because I just got back into my own workouts. I got done with a cut a couple weeks ago and then spent the last couple of weeks not exercising, not dieting, not doing anything, just eating all kinds of nasty, fatty, sugary, delicious, amazing foods and not giving a fuck. And today I'm getting back into exercise and got a couple of weeks of doing some nice light workouts just to get back into the swing of it and then go, full bore into another bulk. Hopefully my last bulk, to be honest, because I'm not out here trying to be a fucking bodybuilder and it's getting old putting so much effort and time into working out. So I'm not definitely not gonna go recommending you do anything like that on this stream. But it seemed very timely to talk about the importance of exercise and mental health. I mean, Mondays are mental health days. I would be remiss, yeah, that's a word, remiss. I would be remiss if I didn't at least bring up something about the mind body connection. And reality is I enjoy talking about exercising. I do. On Mental Health Mondays, I try to give you guys useful information about mental health topics, whether it's just very interesting or something that could help you out. And I love talking about exercising just because so much it's taken up such a huge component of my personal life over the last several years. And I have so much experience with it and have invested so much time and effort into learning about it. Because I'm actually a hard gainer. It's hard for me to gain muscle in the gym, right? It don't matter how hard I work out. I spend a lot of time putting in a lot of effort in the gym and a lot of effort into my diet, and I squeak out little teeny baby results, little baby results like that. They're small, they're like tiny, like my biceps are tiny. And so I know a lot about that. And so I always felt like, well, I would definitely, if I, before I streamed, I thought, well, if I did stream, it would be nice to put out some information out there that other guys or gals in that situation can use. How they workarounds for if you're a tough gainer and you have a hard time building muscle. There's a lot of workarounds that can help that process. And no, I don't mean like steroids. I mean like, workarounds like dieting things you can do. I'm working on one now on this next bulk. I'm going to be working with having a diet that is centered around myostatin inhibition. And I'm going to be introducing some supplementation that helps with myostatin inhibition. So that's something I'm working on. But I've been, before that, this last bulk that I had was all centered around androgen receptor cell upregulation. So I've put a lot of effort into this shit, right? Okay, I'm throwing all this at you, telling you all this, because throwing all these complicated words at you because I've put in a lot of effort into studying exercising to figure out how to build more muscle when your body just doesn't fucking want to, when you just don't have the genetics to build muscle, So I have a lot of expertise in this industry or in this particular topic and would enjoy sharing it with people. So I figured, fuck it, today is a Monday. I'm back on streaming at 5 p.m. I was streaming at 11 a.m. and that didn't help at all. Used to stream at 7, tried 11, got less viewership, even with YouTube. Now I stream on YouTube too and still got less viewership than I did on Twitch, just streaming on Twitch at 7 p.m. So hopping back into afternoons and figured, well, this week I got easy peasy workouts all week. So all these next 2 weeks. So it would be a good idea to try streaming at maybe 5 or so. I thought about that today around like 4 o'clock. I was like, you know what? I should fucking stream today, man. and stream around 5 and see what happens if that's a better time to be streaming. So today we're trying something new anyways. It's a good day to hop into a conversation even if a lot of people feel like it would be boring or this topic doesn't interest them. I it at least interests me. So it's a good way for me to hop into it on a Monday. And if it does interest you, if you do tune into the live stream or miss the live stream and tune into the YouTube video, thanks for tuning in. I hope you find some information here that you enjoy, that is helpful. If you're one of those people, or if you're having some mental health issues yourself, or you know people that are, today's going to be a lot of information that can help you out. Okay, so it's a lot of interesting stuff we're going to talk about today. If you do learn something new today and find the stream to be interesting, then please leave a like and subscribe. That always helps the channel out, and I appreciate that. So let's go ahead and get into it. So today we're talking about exercise and mental health. And I think originally the reason why I even made this stream, aside from the fact that I love talking about exercising, it's like one of the few topics I could just talk for hours about, is because from a mental health standpoint, exercise really helped me out on a very personal level when I had mental health issues in my life, and nothing extreme. I wasn't like diagnosed with, bipolar disorder or depression or anything like that. But I definitely had my own mental health issues. Everybody does, emotional issues, things like that that you need to work through. And exercising was a big part of that for me. Going into the gym, picking up resistance training, even though again I don't get a lot of physical benefits out of it as far as building muscle goes. I don't have good genetics for muscle building. I still get a lot out of it mentally. And so it's something that, if you have any kind of mental health issues, anybody watches this does, this is a huge thing that you could be missing out on if you're not exercising or exercising correctly, even because that can lead, too much exercise can also be bad for your mental health. But if you're not exercising, then you're leaving a lot on the table in terms of quality of life, quality of your mental health, happiness, overall levels of happiness. You're leaving a lot on the table there if you're not exercising, especially if you do have some sort of emotional or mental issues, disorders, or just, you're struggling with sadness, you're in a difficult situation in life, you're very, what's the word, anxiety, a lot of anxiety in your life right now, anything like that, you're leaving a lot on the table by not just taking an hour, half an hour to exercise, every other day. Even a minimal amount of exercise does produce a pretty large benefit. So that's the reason why I wanted to do this stream, was because personally exercise helped a lot. I can say for me, a lot of the issues that I had with my mental health was things like a I don't know why I switched that screen. Let me pop back here. I switched out of my rant screen, then decided I want to keep ranting. So we're going back here. So a lot of the things that I had issues with were things like confidence, locus of control, you know, those two things together definitely combine into an overall kind of like hopelessness, like it's difficult for you to change your own life sort of thing. I have a tendency towards neuroticism. So when I got a lot on my plate, I'm just worried constantly and constantly thinking about it and can't stop thinking about it and can't stop thinking about all the ways in which it's going to go wrong. And working out and exercise helps me manage all of that. I get, a locus of control. I can, even again, with how difficult it is for me to build muscle, I can still go to the gym and over a prolonged length of time, putting in the reps, here in a few months, come back and see a definitive difference in my body and a difference that I want. And I feel like I have control. It gives me a sense of control in my life. That's important, particularly if you're in a situation where you feel like you're doing all you can do and you're not getting anything out of it, right? That's so many of us find ourselves in places in life like that, where you're putting in so much effort and so much fucking energy to make things work for you, and things still just aren't working. And you can lose your locus of control when you're in situations like that in life. You can feel you'll catch yourself feeling like, nothing I do makes a difference in the quality of my own life. And if you're somebody that has people you need to care for, like children, that can be a scary place to be in, to feel like nothing you do matters. Then it feels like there's nothing you can do to change your children's life, nothing you can do to change life for your spouse, anybody you care about, you know? So it's really important to have a locus control in life. Confidence is another huge and important factor that, it doesn't matter who you are. Yeah, there's such thing as too much confidence, but you need to have a certain amount of confidence in order to have a quality life, man. It's having confidence in yourself is what pushes you to go out and do things that are new that you haven't done before that you might end up being really good at. If you lack this belief in your abilities to learn new things and get good at things, then you're not ever going to try. You're going to give up at the first sign of failure, and if you're doing that, then that's really going to impede on the quality of your life. So, just those two things in general, working out greatly improves confidence, greatly improves your locus of control. And just for those two reasons alone are things that most people can benefit from, even if you don't have mental health issues. We're going to get into a few different things that working out helps with, and it isn't just people who are depressed. So let's go ahead and get into it. That's the reason that I wanted to do this stream, though. Why I put it all together in the first place was because I had exercising made a major difference in my life, and I wanted to share that with all of you. Anybody who bothers to watch, hopefully you guys learn something from this. If at the very least, you know, get it burned into your brain if it already hasn't been, that exercise does a lot more than just make your body big and strong or help you lose weight. It helps your mental health to an extreme degree. So, just to push that point home, we're going to start with healthandfitnessassociation.org. And this website goes over some studies that they did just after COVID. There's been long there has long been data to suggest physical activity and exercise benefit mental health. Yeah, and I found studies. I'm not going to show any of those to you today, but I had studies collected for this stream that were all the way back from 1975. I didn't include them because I found more modern studies that say the same thing or have a better understanding of those concepts than they did in the 1970s. But in June 2021, the John W. Brick Foundation released their Move for Mental Health report, which provides a scoping review of over 1,000 studies conducted over the last 30 years. The research cast a wide net, including studies on any variety of physical activity, exercise, or movement type, and any mental health outcome, published between 1990 and 2020. So this is much newer, given this was put out in 2021, right? So the findings were overwhelmingly positive. Out of 1,158 studies examined, 89% found a statistically significant positive association between physical activity or exercise and mental health. The top three exercise types linked to mental health benefits were: 1, general physical activity, a broad category that represents any kind of movement. So, walking, what I did when I was cutting this last time is go do yard work. I have a hellacious yard. My backyard is just overgrown with weeds and pine needles. And so going back there and just raking pine needles for a few hours, getting the vacuum out, the lawn vac, and sucking up leaves. And then I just put together a whole compost pile. I got a big ass 500-gallon compost pile that requires me to shovel and turn every few days. So just having that available, all of that would be general physical activity. And some of that is very time consuming and it's difficult, I guess. It's hard. You can consider it hard physical activity because you're going to break a sweat doing all that kind of shit. Okay. It's not resistance training, but you're definitely going to break a sweat with it. 2 is cardiovascular or aerobic physical activity. That's going to be running, swimming, anything that you do a lot of repetitions of, your Stairmaster, biking, all that's going to be cardio or aerobic physical activity. And then 3 was yoga. The conclusions drawn from this report are overwhelmingly for the health and fitness industry. Overwhelmingly positive for the health and fitness industry. Yeah, that definitely is a big deal. So, exercise and mental health. This review found statistically significant and beneficial links between several types of physical activity and depression, anxiety, mood, general mental health, quality of life, stress, and well-being. So all those things, okay? It helps all those things. The strongest association across the board, though, were for depression. A review cited in the report and published in the Journal of the American Medical Association included 39 trials, found that exercise was associated with reduced depression symptoms compared with no treatment and placebo and active control groups. However, additional studies found that the effects of exercise were not all that different from psychotherapy or antidepressants. So, again, that statement there should be pretty profound to you, right? There is no difference between exercise and psychotherapy or antidepressants in terms of the effect it has on people with depression. They all affect in a positive, right? So, research also suggested exercise is beneficial for anxiety. Meta analysis of studies have found that exercise is more effective in treating anxiety than control group settings. In addition, exercise improved anxiety symptoms in people with an anxiety diagnosis or other stress related and those with clinically raised anxiety. A growing body of evidence suggests physical activity can provide immediate anxiety relief following a session. The evidence shows that exercise can be a long term solution and potential immediate coping mechanism for people who have anxiety. All right. And that's, if you didn't check out, I have a video on my YouTube channel, The Most Common Mental Health Disorders. Go check that out. That was a good stream. Anxiety, general anxiety disorder, GAD, and clinical depression are two of the top 7. I think it was 7 I did. I do weird numbers like this. I never do top 10 for some, I guess I just want to be different. I do top 6, top 7, top 8, top 9.5, whatever. But I think it was like the top 6 or 7 most common mental health disorders in America. Those two were on there. So there's a lot of people that could benefit from it. Evidence thus far suggests an effective exercise regime for depression and anxiety includes both aerobic and resistance training across 4 to 5, 30 to 45-minute sessions each week. And that's not a lot of time. 4 to 5 sessions, 30 minutes per session. If you did 4 sessions, 30 minutes, that's 2 hours across your whole week, right? Yeah, I did the math right. That's 2 hours across your entire week. You can do that. It doesn't matter who you are. You can make that work. And, it's the most effective is aerobic and resistance training, but that doesn't mean you have to do either or. That's just the most effective, right? That doesn't mean that it's ineffective to just focus on aerobic or just focus on resistance training. It just means you're more effective if you do both, right? Exercise should also be supervised by a trained fitness professional and be mindful of participants' enjoyment, community, and culture to maximize adherence. That's, again, to maximize adherence, having somebody there to help make sure you're doing the right thing and, being mindful. Make sure you enjoy it. You got a community can help some people. I know a lot of people actually who stick with it my little brother's that way, sticks with it when he has a community of people there. I'm the opposite. I've been going to the same gym for 3 years. And so a lot of people come up and say hi to me. And it's nice to see people and chat and make sure they're doing good and everything. But ultimately, when I'm in the zone, I'm in the zone. I put my headphones in and I'm there to work out. And I don't even, you have to walk up to me and like wave in my face, do jumping jacks, maybe throw your hat at me. And then I'll notice you and be like, oh, it's you. Hi, guy. And then we can sit and chat. But if we chat for longer than 10 minutes, bro, I'm gonna get like antsy. Like, bro, I need to work out. I'm here to get weights. I am not a community orientated person when it comes to working out. Some people are though. But so if you're that kind of person, making sure you have people to work out with would help you adhere to it. It's not gonna like improve the effects. It's just going to make it easier for you to stick with it, right? People with anxiety also benefit from adding more mindful forms of exercise like yoga, tai chi, qigong, 1 or 2 times per week. Yeah, I used to do yoga, and yoga is very, obviously Goose Frabra, Zen. I was thinking about getting back into a little yoga after my bulk because I want to get back into wrestling and jujitsu, and it's very beneficial to do a lot of stretching when you're doing any kind of wrestling, right? Because the stretching protects your tendons and all the connective tissue from getting all fucked up. Anyway, exercise and mental health. While exercise cannot cure mental illness, that is a big point. Like nobody's saying that it cures your mental illness. It still provides important benefits to overall well-being. For example, the report highlights evidence suggesting aerobic exercise can lower psychiatric symptoms and improve cognition in people with schizophrenia type disorder. See, that's crazy. If it helps schizophrenics, okay, it's going to help you with your bad day, bro. All right, and whatever you're going through today, you're probably not going through the same kind of crazy level of shit that a schizophrenic has to deal with on a regular basis. And there are studies that show that they get a benefit from this. All right, so quit your crybaby bullshit. A study including 39 trials found that physical activity intervention significantly affected lower depression symptoms and schizophrenia symptoms. Interventions also improved the quality of life in people with mental illnesses. The report also points to a 19-study meta-analysis, which found that yoga was better for depressive symptoms in contrast to no treatment or treatment as usual. For people with depression, PTSD, that was another one of the most common mental health disorders in America, schizophrenia, anxiety, alcohol use, and bipolar disorder. Again, bipolar disorder, another one of the most common mental health disorders in America. So here's some recommendations for that. And let's see. We'll get back to that towards the end. I wanted to go over like how to get started into your exercise program if you've never exercised or if you're new to it or if it's been a really long time. Some good tips and tricks for getting you back into the whole thing, so we'll go over that at the end of the stream. Right now, I wanted to show you some evidence, okay? Because this is them. This is pretty good evidence, but it's an article talking about the studies that were done, and that's all good and well. But we're going to go into some actual studies, and I'm just going to read the results of these studies for you so you can see, right? So here's study number one. This study, let's see, this was 2016, okay? Association between exercise participation and quality of sleep and life among university students in Taiwan. So we're just going to go through and read the discussion of it. Here, they got the results and group comparison. So yeah, independent predictors. Let's see, was that it? No. We want to go to discussion. The discussion on this is very interesting, but we're not going to dive into the discussion. The discussions where they go over all this data here, what it means. We're going to get to the conclusion because I got a lot of studies to show you guys. So, conclusion. In conclusion, university students with regular exercise reported better quality of life than those who exercised less. There you have it. Students who had better self-perceived health or satisfaction with exercise participation also had better sleep quality and better quality of life. So, this is an important note to make, and they say this in the discussion of the study. The study, like everything we go over today, as always, in every stream I do, will be linked in the description to the video. So if you want to go over all of this yourself, you can. All you have to have is a JSTOR subscription, and it's free. So I definitely recommend it. You get 100 articles every month to read for free, 100 studies for free. And so it's a good resource. I highly recommend JSTOR, JSTOR.org. You'll see it in the description, and you can just click on the link, make yourself a free what's the word, profile or whatever, a free account. There it is, and you get 100 articles to read, 100 studies that you can read every month for free, and then you can read through this study if you want. But as they talk about in the discussion, the discussion portion of this study. Let me read that again. Students who had a better self-perceived health versus better health, right? Better health is your arguably of good health or better health than the average person, and self-perceived health, okay? Meaning you see your health as better than most other people's versus your health is better than other people's. Those are two different things. And satisfaction with exercise participation is different than just exercise. Exercise is exercise. It's you going out and doing a thing. Satisfaction with exercise participation is how good you feel about the exercise you're doing. Those two things, all around, and all their results overwhelmingly improved people's quality of sleep and their quality of life. So that's an important and a really interesting thing to know. That's kind of why I wanted to bring up this study. It's fun for discussion. It's interesting to talk about. Students who have better self-perceived health are going to get better quality sleep and have a better quality of life. And students that have satisfaction with exercise participation are going to have better quality sleep and better quality of life versus people with better students with better health and students with that just exercise versus are satisfied with the exercise that they're doing. So that's important to know. What it means is your perception of your health and how much you enjoy participating in your exercises are ultimately what actually leads to you having better sleep quality and quality of life. And they in this study they compare that to people a person that actually doesn't have as good a health as a person who does to an extent, okay, it's not across the board, okay? If you you know your body is plagued with some sort of serious illness and you're, far above the cutoff line for like clinical obesity or something like that, you're if you think you have good health, that's not going to improve your quality of life as much as actually having good quality health. But between two people, one that may have a little less better health quality, physical health, and somebody who might have better physical health quality, but what ultimately helps how their sleep quality and their quality of life between these two people would actually be who is the most satisfied with their exercising and who perceives their health of being the best. So if this guy has a little bit better health than this guy over here, guy A is a little bit healthier and exercises more than guy B, but guy A doesn't really like exercising. He kind of fucking hates it and he doesn't think that he's healthy, then his quality of sleep and his quality of life is actually going to be lower than guy B, who exercises a little less, but enjoys his exercising and is a little less unhealthy, but perceives his health as being awesome. That's going to affect your sleep quality and quality of life. And so that's very interesting, right? Kind of a wrench in the fucking spokes, so to speak. But that is important to know. Yeah, how you perceive your health, which, the catch 22 there is if you're not working out, you're not going to perceive your health as being very good. Not as much as if you were working out. That's a reality. That's, whether it's yoga, again, that's why yoga and all of this works. Yoga, getting just general moving around, aerobic exercise, resistance training, whatever it is you're doing, it all benefits your quality of life and your quality of sleep so long as you're enjoying what it is that you're doing and it leads to you having a better perception of your own health. Okay. So that's the takeaway right there. This also went through gender differences in the study. Gender differences in sleep quality and quality of life might result from gender differences in exercise behavior and self perceived health. That word might is doing a lot of heavy lifting in that sentence based off of what I saw in the results for this study. The results for this study that they describe is like there is a difference. They noted a difference in sleep quality and quality of life between female students. Female students had much less sleep quality and overall quality of life than male students did. But when they controlled for how much exercising was being done, who was the happiest with the form of exercising they were doing, and who perceived themselves as having better health, once they controlled for those variables, then it was across the board. Then it was basically down to, well, it was down to those things. Then it evened out. Then it was like, okay, this is what's making the difference between who has the better quality of life. It is ultimately exercise behavior, which was how often they exercised and how satisfied they were with their exercise and their perceived health. Though once they went controlled for that variable, the difference was none. And so they believed, and I would assume they're correct in their belief because their data shows it, that when people again perceive themselves as being healthy, that helps with their sleep quality and their quality of life, as well as those who exercise and exercise in a way that satisfies them and makes them happy and excited to exercise, they overall had better sleep quality and quality of life. And that difference between the genders went away once that was taken into consideration. Controlled experimental studies are needed to verify the causal relationship among these factors. So this doesn't straight up say that there's a causal relationship, just that there is a relationship. But it's worth noting that that relationship exists. And we got a lot of other studies that have been done on this. So we're going to keep going. I wanted to jump over here to another aspect of mental health that we're going to talk about: physical activity and the risk of dementia. So dementia, I don't know how much you know about it. I don't know all that much about it. We did go over dementia a little bit in that the most common mental health disorders in America. Dementia wasn't on the list, surprisingly, but it was very close. It was very close to being in like the top six. And we've talked about it a little bit on other streams. I do have on my list of streaming topics to do just a whole stream on dementia because it is very brutal. I knew a person that passed away with dementia, and it was very brutal. You know, what people around this person told me of her final days, you know, it was real sad. And it was one of those things where it was like, geez, you know, it's something that I don't want. You know, you wouldn't wish this on somebody. You know, you wouldn't want to wish this on an enemy, right? I wouldn't wish this on a person that I didn't like. I don't have a whole lot of enemies, but if I did, you know, I would just ask that they like stub their toe really fucking hard or something like that, right? Not get dementia. I'm not that, you know, I'm not that big of a prick, right? But I would never want to see my parents or little brothers, girlfriends, anybody in her family, anybody that I know or care about, even three relationships removed, would want to see them have dementia because it's pretty brutal. So, I when I put this stream together, definitely seen there as a connection and wanted to spend some time on that topic. So, does does lack of exercise increase the risk of dementia? This is according to alzheimers.org.uk. So this is the United Kingdom studies and what they have to say about it. A lack of physical exercise is one of the main factors where the evidence is strong enough to show that it increases a person's risk of developing dementia. Studies looking at the effect of exercise in middle aged or older adults have reported improvements in thinking and memory and reduces rates of dementia. We're going to get into a couple studies that show that. So, how to reduce the risk of dementia. Gives you a whole different group list of ways to do that, but we're going to focus on physical exercise in this stream. Research has shown that people who take regular exercise may be up to 20% less likely to develop dementia than those who don't take regular exercise. This came from some analysis that combined the results of 58 studies into exercise and dementia. It has been shown that going from being inactive to doing some amount of exercise has the biggest impact. Sustaining physical activity throughout midlife also seems to have the best effect on reducing dementia risk. There is some evidence to show older people can also reduce their risk of dementia with regular exercise. One study looked at the amount of daily activity of older people. The ones who exercised the least, the bottom 10%, were more than twice as likely to develop Alzheimer's disease as the ones who exercise the most, or the top 10%. And types of physical activity. Physical activity refers to aerobic exercise performed for 20 to 30 minutes at a time. Most of the studies report on the effects of aerobic exercise done several times a week and maintained for at least a year. That's a pretty good length of time that they did these studies, too. It's not like a 2 week long study, right? Physical exercise does not just mean playing a sport or running, it can also mean a daily activity such as brisk walking, cleaning, or gardening. One study found that daily physical tasks such as cooking and washing can reduce the risk of Alzheimer's disease. There are two main types of physical activity: aerobic activity and strength building activity, also called resistance training. Each type will keep you fit in different ways. Doing a combination of these activities will help you reduce your risk of dementia, which we kind of already read that. The two together almost always have better results unless you're going for very, very specific results, which I'm not going to, we're not going to throw those out there because that's not what we're talking about. But yeah, so again, even cooking and exercise, cooking is enough that it helps reduce the potential for dementia. Now, I do have another study here that I wanted to bring up just because I found it. This is a study done in 2018. Dementia and physical activity trial of moderate to high intensity exercise training for people with dementia. Okay, so this is an important difference to make. A moderate to high intensity aerobic and strength exercise training program does not slow cognitive impairment in people with mild to moderate dementia. The exercise training program improved physical fitness, but there were no noticeable improvements in other clinical outcomes. So this is always an important thing to note. When it comes to dementia, a lot of the things that help stop dementia or help to prevent you from getting dementia, they don't help dementia once you have it. Once you have it, there's things that you can do, but they're very much more narrow. You're kind of fucked. So get started early. You know, if you're in your 30s or 40s, now's the time to get started on working out, because what I'm trying to get at here is exercise helps prevent any forms of dementia, which includes Alzheimer's. It does not slow it down once you have it. Once you have it, exercising does not affect it. Okay. So that's important to know, right? Wanted to bring this study up just for that sake. And there again, the whole study is down here, the methodology and everything. You know, it's a pretty extensive study. I didn't read through this whole study. I just wanted to put this study up because that is an important difference to note. All the reading I've done on the subject is there isn't a lot of studies to show, none that I can find, in fact, that show exercising slows down or helps to cure in any amount dementia once you have it. Okay, it prevents it when you don't have it. It makes it less likely that you will get it. But if you have it, it doesn't do anything to make it better. Even it just improves your physical abilities is all it does. But it won't slow it down. It won't decrease the side effects, nothing like that, as far as any studies I found. Okay, so one of those things you want to get a start on early. Yeah. Okay, so we're going to keep on this train specifically with Alzheimer's disease, which is a type of dementia. So, prevention studies. A small percentage of people with Alzheimer's disease, less than 1%, have an early onset type associated with genetic mutations. Individuals who have these genetic mutations are guaranteed to develop the disease. Ongoing clinical trial conducted by the Dominantly Inherited Alzheimer Network, DIAN, is testing whether antibodies to beta amyloid can reduce the accumulation of beta amyloid plaque in brains. Okay, here it is. Heart and head connection. Several conditions known to increase the risk of cardiovascular disease, such as high blood pressure, diabetes, and high cholesterol, also increase the risk for developing Alzheimer's. So there is a correlation, not a causational relationship there. But they found some autopsy studies show that as many as 80% of individuals with Alzheimer's disease also have cardiovascular disease. So it is having cardiovascular disease could very possibly increase your chances of getting Alzheimer's. And how do you decrease cardiovascular disease? Keep your blood pressure low, keep your blood sugar in the right, you don't want it too low, but keep your blood sugar where it's supposed to be, and then keep your cholesterol low. So good cholesterol, good blood pressure, and good blood sugar levels help to negate the possibility of getting cardiovascular disease, which in turn, there's a strong correlation there between getting cardiovascular disease and getting Alzheimer's. Physical exercise and diet. Regular physical exercise may be a beneficial strategy to lower the risk of Alzheimer's and vascular dementia. Exercise may directly benefit brain cells by increasing blood and oxygen flow into the brain. Because of its known cardiovascular benefits, a medically approved exercise program is a valuable part of any overall wellness program. And then there's a couple diets. We're going to actually get into that next month. Diets for mental health. We will definitely be looking at the relationship between dieting and developing any kind of dementia. So, but there you have it. This is the Alzheimer's Association. This is an American organization. We read from a UK organization, their recommendations for dementia. This is Alzheimer's Association's recommendation for Alzheimer's. And yeah, physical diet or physical exercise, and then of course paying attention to diet. There's a strong correlation there. It's not causal, but a strong correlation. Okay. So I want to go into study number, 3 or 4 at this point? I don't remember. Need to work out more. 2011 is when this study was published. Exercise training increases the size of your hippocampus and improves memory. Your hippocampus is the part of your brain that handles your memory, right? So the results. Aerobic exercise training selectively increases hippocampal volume. So it actually increases the size of your hippocampus. Working out does. 120 older adults without dementia were randomly assigned to an aerobic exercise group or to a stretching control group. Magnetic resonance images were collected before the intervention, after 6 months, and again after the completion of the program. The groups did not differ at baseline in hippocampal volume or attendance rates. We found that the exercise intervention was effective at increasing the size of the hippocampus. That is, the aerobic exercise group demonstrated an increase in the volume of the left and right hippocampus by 2.12 and 1.9% respectively over a 1 year period, whereas the stretching control group played a 1.4 and 1.4% decline over the same interval. Interesting. So, the moderating effect of aerobic exercise on hippocampal volume loss was confirmed by a significant time times group in interaction for both the left and right hippocampuses. So, both sections of the hippocampus, left and right. So, yeah, exercise, according to this study done in 2011, increases the size of your hippocampus, which improves memory retention. And in this particular study, what they did is they took older adults, older people who are at higher risk for memory loss, put them through one group through aerobic exercises and another group through just stretching. The group that went through aerobics exercises showed an increase in hippocampal volume and an increase in memory retention versus the second group that continued to show a decline in their, and it was an almost complete reversal, right? The group that was stretching showed a decrease in their hippocampal size of their hippocampus by 1.4 to 1.3, or 1.4 and 1.3 for each side of the hippocampus, whereas the group that was doing aerobic exercise showed an increase in hippocampus size, 2.12 for the left and 1.97 for the right. So as they're almost going down and up at the same rate, right? It almost reverses that decrease in memory, that memory loss, right? A couple other interesting notes on this study. Changes in fitness are associated with increased hippocampal volume. So changes in fitness, right? So this changes in your fitness level, improving your fitness increases your hippocampal volume, right? Any improvement on your fitness, right? And what was BDNF? I forget what BDNF was. I think this was a chemical in your brain is associated with changes in hippocampal volume, and exercise increases the levels of BDNF in hippocampus. Okay, so there's the mechanism by which it is doing this, and hippocampal volume is related to improvements in spatial memory. So there's your how this improves memory, and I'll again link this study in the description for your consideration. But yeah, there's a study showing that it improves your fucking memory. And in older adults in this particular study, it actually reversed their memory loss. Okay. You'd have to get into the methodology right here. Methods. Ooh, add a burp. Add another burp. Nose sounds. Okay. Training protocol. Here's the training protocol they use. Aerobic exercise program. A trained exercise leader supervised all sessions. Participants started by walking for 10 minutes and increased walking duration weekly by 5-minute increments until a duration of 40 minutes was achieved at week 7. Participants walked for 40 minutes per session for the remainder of the program. All walking sessions started and ended with approximately 5 minutes of stretching for the purpose of warming up and cooling down. Participants wore heart rate monitors, and were encouraged to walk in their target heart rate zone, which was calculated using the Karvonen method according to the resting and maximum heart rates achieved during the baseline maximal graded exercise test. So, that's essentially they found a good, what was the word they used? Heart rate zone. You can just go look up graphs, and you can go look up the Karvonen method for measuring what your perfect heart rate zone would be. It's not that difficult. I think mine was like somewhere around 140 was my heart rate zone, and you shoot for a heart 140, meaning 140 beats per minute is your heart rate you're shooting for, and that's like the ultimate, the not ultimate, the gosh, what's the word I'm looking at? Fuck. Gosh, okay. Well, it is the best, the optimum. God damn it. Thank it. Optimum, ultimate. I need to start working out more because my memory is, but hey, look, I just had 2 weeks off, so I've been smoking a little bit of the ganj, and, you know, call it, call that was a cannabis cloud in my brain stopping me there. Had a little brain fart. But so that is optimal for when I'm working out, doing aerobic exercise to keep my heart rate roughly around 140 beats per minute. It's not that hard to go do that. You can look up those methods on the internet and figure out what yours is, but they're just talking about walking, dude. That's all that they did for their aerobic exercise. No swimming, cycling, nothing intense. it's difficult to walk and hit 140 beats per minute, but these are older people, so they don't need to hit 140 beats per minute. And walking, you wouldn't want them to get that high of a heart rate, I would imagine. But you can read through the methods, training protocols, their assessment, how they assessed this, and spatial memory paradigm, how they measured the spatial memory, all of that good stuff, if you're interested. And we got another study here. Regular exercise increases brain's memory region in older women. This is in Canada, 2014. Another study shows the same thing. We're just going to go to where was it? Oh, it was literally just this. Okay. Twice weekly aerobic exercise significantly increases the volume of the brain's hippocampal region in older women with mild cognitive impairment. A small randomized study published this week shows, suggesting that exercise helps to reduce cognitive decline. Canadian researchers randomly allocated 86 women aged 70 to 80 with probable mild cognitive impairment to 3 different exercise regimes: aerobic training, brisk walking, resistance training such as lunges and weights, or balance and muscle toning exercises. Each participant exercised for 1 hour twice a week for 6 months. The volume of each woman's hippocampus was assessed with MRI scans at the start and end of the 6-month exercise period. The hippocampus is a part of the brain that is essential for memory, but is sensitive to aging and neurodegeneration. The researchers tested verbal memory and learning capacity before and after the study period using a validated test, the Ray Auditory Verbal Learning Test. Results in the 29 women who had MRI scans before and after the exercise training program showed that those who did regular aerobic exercise showed significant increases in left, right, and total hippocampal volumes after 6 months, compared with women who took part in balance and tone training. Overall, results showed a 4% increase in the mean total hippocampus volume for women who walked briskly for 1 hour twice a week. The researchers, led by this person, said our primary finding of the positive impact of aerobic, they didn't mention in there the resistance training, just tone training and balance. Interesting. Okay, maybe they mention it over here. Okay, our primary finding of the positive impact of aerobic training on hippocampal volume concurs with and extends previous observations. They said that aerobic training might increase hippocampal volume by increasing levels of brain neurotrophic factor, which stimulates nerve cell growth and increases the complexity of the dendritic network. Don't know what that is. But the research group cautioned that more research was needed to understand the relevance of exercise-induced changes in different areas of the hippocampus. They never did jump into resistance training, but walking 2 hours a week was enough to increase the size of the hippocampus. Again, just showing how it can affect your memory. That's 2 studies that show that now. And then we're going to jump into the next one, which is going to be its effects on depression, right? So just to recap very briefly what we've gone over in about this roughly this last hour, we've more or less been streaming for exercise. We've gone through a big statistical analysis of how it affects a whole variety of issues, including schizophrenia. There are studies to show that exercise helps decrease not decrease the symptoms of, but increase the quality of life for people with schizophrenic disorders. Okay. And then we showed how this affects memory. We just went over a few studies, how it can affect memory, Alzheimer's, and dementia, specifically in preventing the onset of these particular disorders. It can play a very big role in it, right? And then we're going to jump into depression and exercise now, right? So exercise eases symptoms of depression and anxiety. So when you have depression or anxiety, exercise often seems like the last thing you want to do. But once you get started and keep going, exercise can make a big difference. Exercise helps prevent and improve many health problems, including high blood pressure, diabetes, and arthritis. Research on depression and anxiety and exercise shows that the mental health and physical benefits of exercise can also help mood get better and lessen anxiety. The links between depression, anxiety, and exercise aren't entirely clear, but working out and other forms of physical activity can ease symptoms of depression or anxiety and make you feel better. Exercise may also help keep depression and anxiety from coming back once you're feeling better. So, how does exercise help depression and anxiety? One, it releases endorphins. Endorphins are natural brain chemicals that improve your sense of well being. And two, takes your mind off worries. Thinking about something else instead of worrying can get you away from the cycle of negative thoughts that feed depression and anxiety. That's a big one. Exercising, again, I do resistance training, is what I mostly focus on, but doing wrestling and jujitsu as well, same thing. Yoga also to a lesser extent for me, but that's just me personally. To a bigger extent, other people will choose yoga over resistance training any day of the week for this reason. But for me, resistance training, lifting heavy weights, and wrestling with a dude that's trying to choke you, both those things really stop you from thinking about anything else in life. It's really hard to think about, oh, that fight I just had with my girlfriend or my boyfriend, the shit that I got to do at work tomorrow, when you're struggling to stop a 200-pound man from choking your neck, right? Like it's hard to think about those things. Yeah. And same with when you're lifting 200 plus pounds over your fucking head, when you're bench pressing, and you're sitting there like, you're like you have 200 pounds above your head and you don't want it to fall and break your skull. You're not really thinking about anything else. You're really focused on making sure you don't kill yourself. So eh, working out, resistance training, and the same with, I'm doing more hypertrophic workouts, hypertrophy based workouts, where I'm just doing like lat raises for 20 reps, as much as I can do. You get into those last reps and you got that burning, that pump in your arms, and you're just like, "Ugh," I'm not in danger here, but yeah, it might still really hard to focus on anything else. When you got a good burn and you're really in the zone and you're really going at it, it's very meditative, right? And again, for me, yoga, it was a little bit more difficult for me to control my thoughts while I'm doing yoga. For other people, it's much easier. They would prefer yoga over resistance training or getting choked out on a mat regularly, right? So, but yeah, regular exercise when you're in the middle of your exercise. Running was another one that was very beneficial for me, because once you hit a certain point with your runs, for me, like once I hit around like mile 5 or 6, shit would hurt. It would be nasty. I'd be hurting, man. I would be over there like like, struggling for breath, man, making all kinds of animal noises and not looking too good. But I sure as shit wasn't thinking about my problems. I can tell you that. I was thinking about how much I love oxygen and how much I just wish I could get a little bit of that, and how I might croak if I don't here in the next 2 miles. And so your brain's focused, really, funny enough, kind of on the pain, right? And then when you get done working out, somewhere around the middle of your workout, those endorphins hit you and you feel much better, for at least, I forget how long the endorphins last. I think it's a couple hours, you know. I think it depends on how intense the exercise is. But when you're running, you get what's called a runner's high. And the runner's high is endorphins. And so, again, somewhere for me about mile, I'd say like 4 to 6 is when I would like start really struggling. And then somewhere around mile 8 would be 7 to 8, something would click for me and I would get that runner's high. Well, my endorphins would hit. My body would release those endorphins because it sees I'm struggling. It sees I'm over here and I'm fucking dying. I'm like, give me oxygen. My legs hurt. They're going to fall off. And then my brain's like, oh, he needs some endorphins. So I get a release of endorphins and suddenly I get like a second win and I feel fucking good. And then 10, I get to mile 10, mile 11, and I finally stop. I'm like, holy shit, I just ran 10, 11 miles, man. I did not think I could ever do that, right? Being a heavy cigarette smoker since high school, that's crazy that I can run 10 miles. So, but yeah, those two things, two ways in which it can really temporarily alleviate depression or anxiety, right? Regular exercise has many mental health and emotional benefits too. It can help you gain confidence. I talked about that earlier. Meeting exercise goals or challenges, even small ones, boosts your self confidence. Getting in shape can also make you feel better about how you look. So, again, even someone like me who has a hard time gaining muscle, even just a little gain in muscle makes a big deal, right? It makes me feel better. You'll have those days where you get up and you go to the bathroom, you wake up, in the morning and you take a piss and get all the boogers out of your eyes and you see yourself in the mirror and you're like, "Ooh, shit. Look at that." Yeah. That's nice. And that's a really good way to start your day. It feels really nice to start your day with, a little bit of self appreciation, right? A little bit of self love. And yeah, nailing goals, me hitting my cut goal was a big deal. And I felt good about it. I felt really good about myself for hitting 15% body fat. When I ended my bulk at 230 pounds, felt super good about that. you know, those things matter. Those are the things that give you dopamine hits. Dopamine is another one of those feel good drugs that your brain releases when you accomplish something. So accomplishing your goals gives you a hit of dopamine. That's a great streaming idea. The four happy juices. Happy juice. Yeah, I'm going to write this down real quick because I'll say this on stream. I'll be like, that's brilliant. That's a brilliant idea. And then I'll get done with my stream and I'll fucking forget it. So stream about happy juice. Every time I say that word, I think of that movie Euro Trip. Euro Trip. They had a commercial in that movie. They say happy juice. And I don't know why, but I used to think that was hilarious when I was a little kid. Because when you're a little kid, you think stupid shit's funny. Okay. Get more social interaction. Exercise and physical activity may give you the chance to meet or socialize with others. Just sharing a friendly smile or greeting as you walk around your neighborhood can help your mood. And that is another thing. Again, for me, that's not a big thing. I do prefer to be left alone when I'm lifting weights. I'm really focused. I'm really in that zone in my meditative state. And, you really kill my vibe when you walk up. Bitch, don't kill my vibe when you walk up and be like, "Hey, Tony, blah, 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 blah," like it doesn't destroy my mood, but it's definitely one of those things where I'm like, I get pulled out of my meditative state and then got to get back into it. Other people are very different. Obviously, there's a lot of people who are very different than me and they prefer to have people around them. That improves the experience. And again, if you're that kind of person, I would highly recommend wrestling. You know, it's hard to not be social with somebody when you're trying to choke them out, or break their arm. It's a very social sport. So it's a good way to meet people. Cope in a healthy way. Doing something positive to manage depression or anxiety is a healthy coping strategy. Trying to feel better by drinking alcohol, dwelling on how you feel, or hoping depression or anxiety will go away on its own can lead to worsening symptoms. Yeah, again, that's even for everything outside of depression, right? You just got general problems in life. A good way to cope with things that you can't change, because we all have shit in life that we can't change. That crackle is back. That's the first time I've heard it in this stream, thank God, but I still need to work on that. But we all have issues in life, and sometimes those issues just can't be helped. Asshole boss, significant other cheats on you. We can't get rid of these things. These life kicks you in the balls sometimes, bro. And when it does, a good coping strategy is to at least take some time to take your mind off it, take your mind off all the horrible emotions that you got brewing inside of you. And exercise is a great way to do that, right? So, is a structured exercise program the only option? I can already tell it's going to say no, it isn't, right? We already kind of read a lot of articles, a couple articles that said this. So some research shows that physical activity, such as regular walking, not just formal exercise programs, may help mood improve. Physical activity and exercise are not the same thing, but they are both good for your health. Again, physical activity, any activity that works your muscles and requires energy, like I was talking about yard work. We went over the dementia studies. It does help, even if it's just a little bit or less than. And it wasn't just a little bit. We went over the studies. It improved your physical well-being a lot. It improved your mental health a lot, or at least it improved memory retention and all of that a lot. Again, we went over the hippocampus, the measuring the hippocampus in older people that just did walking is all they did, and it increased the size of their hippocampus and then thus improved their memory retention by, what was it, 2%, which is no small thing, because the control group was decreasing in memory retention in the size of their hippocampus by 1.56%. So it literally reversed the memory loss that was brought on by aging. That fucking crackling, man. It's horrible. Today it's just brutal. I'm gonna have to listen back to some of my streams and see if it's always this bad. Anyways, so yeah, any physical activity definitely helps. Don't let anybody tell you that if you're not working out 4 times a week, heavy resistance training, that it's not doing anything. If you're working in your yard every other day, it's going to improve your, at least, improve your mental health, improve your physical health, and as we saw, improve the chances of you getting Alzheimer's or any other form of dementia. But yeah, that's different than exercise. Exercise meaning a planned, structured, repetitive movement like you would do with resistance training, bicep curls, that sort of thing, right? Okay, sorry, burp. So yeah, how much is enough? For most healthy adults, the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services exercise guidelines recommend at least 150 minutes of moderate aerobic activity a week, or get at least 75 minutes of vigorous aerobic activity a week. You can also get an equal mix of the two types, but 150 minutes, I shouldn't need a phone to do that. 2.5 hours a week is what they're talking about. Again, dude, 2.5 hours a week of moderate aerobic activity. Walking, light jog, dude, is good enough. Aim to exercise most days of the week, but even small amounts of physical activity can be helpful. Being active for short periods of time, such as 10 to 15 minutes at a time throughout the day, can add up and have healthy benefits. One that I do know of that works really well when you're losing weight, and it also helps with digestion when you're bulking. If you're in the middle of a heavy bulk and you're getting big, right? Like a few months ago, I was a big boy. I was 230 pounds. I had finished my bulk, and my fucking stomach was so fucking fat. Like walking the 5 steps up to my living room, like made me breathe hard. I just wasn't used to carrying around that much weight on my body. And just eating or just walking for 10 minutes, regular walk speed, not like power walking, just regular walking for 10 minutes after you eat aids in digestion, and it helps if you're in a cut and you're trying to lose weight, if you're in a bulk and you're trying to gain weight, but it helps with digestion, helps your with nutrient partitioning, it's called. So we're getting into the weeds on a whole bunch of other stuff. But yeah, nutrient partitioning is your body's ability to absorb the nutrients from what it is you eat. And when you walk 10 minutes directly after eating, just a light 10-minute walk, it improves your body's ability to digest and improves your body's absorption of the vitamins and nutrients and minerals from whatever it is that you just ate. So, in that way, it helps when you're bulking too. So, how do you get started and stay with it? Again, we're going to come back to this at the end of the stream. That's going to be something we'll come to at the end of the stream. But for now, let's keep going with exercise for depression. Being depressed can leave you feeling low in energy, which might put you off being more active. Okay? Huh. What's okay? What are you talking about here? You might have had another brain fart. I forget what I was talking about. Okay, I'll move more. Well, it'll help. It's beneficial for everybody. You don't seem to be too depressed to me, cutie pie. So I don't think you need it for depression or anything. But it is, what really I think is the most important thing to take away from the whole stream is the dementia thing. And I don't know how it is with you, but dementia runs in my family. And that's something that for me, I'm like, oh, God, that seems horrible. So, this is the age to get into regular exercise to prevent possible dementia because that's scary, right? That's something to be afraid of, right? Anyways, exercise for depression. Being depressed can leave you feeling low in energy, which might put you off being more active. Okay, we kind of already read that. How often do you need to exercise? 150 minutes of moderate intensity a week. And let's see how to get started. Oh, we are exercise on prescription. If you have not exercised for a long time or are concerned about the effects of exercise on your body or health, ask a general practitioner about exercising on your prescription. So yeah, this is another depression resource that talks about exercise for depression. Doesn't really say anything that we haven't gone over already. NHS.UK. So this is another UK source. The last one we read was American source. This is UK. So anyway, there's a handful of ways in which exercise irrefutably helps with your mental health, right? It helps with potential depression, helps with the potential for building dementia, increases the size of your fucking hippocampus, so memory retention is better, for God's sakes, and all around quality of life, better quality of sleep, all of that. And then, of course, better quality sleep, again, makes massive, helps quite a bit with your, uh, with, shoot, I heard that crackle again. It took me off course. Helps with mental health outcomes. If you're not getting a lot of sleep, it's going to strain whatever mental health issues you have. So that's important too. But, anyways, now we're going to jump into how exactly does, like, what is the function in your brain that helps, why physical exercise helps with mental health issues. And before we go into get into that, I'm going to take a break to take a quick piss and get some more coffee. So, geesh, I feel like that uh, crackling is like back in full force now for some reason. I'm gonna hold on before we do that. Latency mon. I'm gonna pop up my latency monitoring device again and see how fucked I am. Cause in just the last 10 minutes, I've heard it so many times, I feel like. Yeah, this fucker right here, this damn driver is back to it again. 0.2166 and 0.219 immediately as soon as it started, too. So I'm gonna have to go back to working on that this month. Well, that's a bummer. But in any case, I need to take a pee real quick. So I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna pop you over here. And I will be right back. Okay. Here, got that. All right. We're back. Let's. Okay. So I didn't get more coffee. We didn't have any more coffee, but I got some strawberry watermelon water flavor stuff that is delicioso. So, okay, we're going to hop over to the YouTube screen. I think I already did. Nope, I hopped over to the wrong one. Okay, there's the right one. Okay, we're going to listen to Miss Dr. Tracy Marks. I have a couple. Oh, of course, a cough. I have a couple of her videos coming up in some of my other mental health streams. So we'll be visiting her channel a lot. Give her a like, and she's got a lot of subscribers too. I'll subscribe to her channel. But yeah, she's going to tell us what exercise does to your brain. Hint, it's like cannabis. Okay, so exercising is like smoking weed. No wonder I like it. All right, let's check it out.
We all know that exercise is good for your body and your brain, but why? In fact, exercise decreases depression and anxiety. How? And what kind of exercise does that? That's what I'm talking about today. I'm Dr. Tracy Marks, a psychiatrist, and I make mental health education videos. You've probably heard the term runner's high, which describes a phenomenon where after intense aerobic exercise like running, you can experience this euphoric feeling and sense of well-being. For years, it was hypothesized that this was due to the release of
Her audio is off. Wonder if everybody else sees that or if that's on my side. Here, let me pop over myself. So my audio isn't off. Okay. Well, I guess that's just in her video, or maybe it's coming out of my monitor, is what it is, but whatever. Back to it.
endorphins, which is your body's natural opiate. Well, it turns out the runner's high really isn't that common among runners, but anyone can experience a relaxed feeling after moderately intense exercise, not from endorphins, but from endocannabinoids. Let me explain. You do get endorphin release with exercise that serves the purpose of lessening pain perception during and after intense activity. But those endorphins don't affect your brain and therefore your mood because they don't make it across the blood-brain barrier. Your brain is very selective about what it allows to pass through the gate. Some molecules can pass and then others not. An example of this is with the antihistamine medications. Histamine is a chemical in your brain that makes you alert, and medications that block it make you sleepy. Histamine in your body from the neck down causes the allergic response of itching, hives, airway constriction. So below the neck, antihistamines block this allergic reaction. Some antihistamines like Benadryl make you sleepy because it crosses the blood-brain barrier and affects the histamine receptors in your brain. Antihistamines that don't make you sleepy, like Zyrtec, were manufactured to be able to not make it to the brain. So back to exercise. We now believe that the good feeling you get after exercise is due to the release of endocannabinoids that do cross the blood-brain barrier. Endocannabinoids are substances that your body produces that activate cannabinoid receptors in your body. The two most studied endocannabinoids are AEA and 2-AG. I'll spare you the full names, but the A stands for arachidonic acid. When something is made in the body, it's called an endogenous source. When the source is outside of your body, it's called exogenous. The two most studied exogenous cannabinoids are THC and CBD from the cannabis plant. Cannabis has over 100 cannabinoids that affect the cannabinoid receptors in your body, but THC and CBD are the two that we know the most about. So you can think of vigorous exercise as making your own strain of cannabis. Sort of. Your homemade cannabinoids have a mood-lifting and anxiety-reducing effect. But it gets better. Regular exercise has a longer effect on improving mood and anxiety because it triggers brain-derived neurotrophic factor, which causes neurogenesis. Neurogenesis is the growth of new cells and the regeneration of damaged cells. Also, researchers have seen that people who exercise regularly have bigger hippocampuses because of this neurogenesis. In the brain world, you want to have a big hippocampus. A small hippocampus is considered a hallmark of depression. Your hippocampus is located in your temporal lobe, and it's associated with memory and learning. It not only controls learning tasks like problem solving, but controls your ability to process emotion and allows you to level up your psychological insight. Researchers also believe with neurogenesis that there's a downstream effect of increasing dopamine and serotonin, both of which we know improves mood. What kind of exercise can give you this nice big hippocampus? The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention and other sources recommend 150 minutes a week of moderate intensity exercise or 75 minutes a week of vigorous intensity. With moderate intensity, you can talk, but not very easily, and you can't sing because your breathing is too fast to hold notes. So if you're talking, you're huffing. Examples of moderate exercise are brisk walking around 3 miles per hour, slow biking, dancing, or doubles tennis. So if you're walking your dog or gardening and you can sing or whistle a tune, you're not doing it hard enough. With vigorous intensity, you can't talk because you're breathing too hard. Examples of this are running, jogging at around 6 miles per hour, which would be a 10-minute mile, swimming laps, or some aerobic classes, depending on how hard they have you working. You can divide up these times however you want, but it's best to spread it out over the week, like 30 minutes on a treadmill 5 times a week for moderate exercise, or a 15-minute fast bike ride 5 times a week. Now, I will say any kind of activity is better than no activity. So a slow walk in your neighborhood still brings you some benefit. But to activate the endocannabinoid system and increase neurogenesis, you need some aerobic activity. I have a link in the description that will give you more guidelines on physical activity. It's from the Department of Health and Human Services. If you like this video, take a look at this one on how intermittent fasting also changes your brain wiring. Thanks for watching. See you next time.
Okay, there you go. Pretty educational video. Pretty easy to explain. So it turns out I was wrong too. It isn't endorphins that gives you that runner's high. It's that endocannabinoids. Who would have thought? That's pretty cool. So anyways, that's... Oh, wrong screen. That is the internal mechanism by which working out helps improve your mood. It is an actual endocannabinoid that does that. Okay, and then we're also going to go over to this guy here, the science behind exercise for a sharper mind. Let's pop back to the YouTube screen and see what he has to say.
Welcome back to the Quick Brain Podcast, where we explore practical techniques and strategies to unlock your brain's full potential. I'm your host and your brain coach, Jim Quick of Quick Learning, and as always, we're here to help you to learn quickly. Today, we have a special episode dedicated to the topic that's often overlooked, but incredibly important: the profound connection between physical exercise and our mental fitness, our mental well-being. Now, as a cognitive performance coach, I'm frequently asked about the secrets to improving brain power. And one of the most effective strategies I've discovered is incorporating regular exercise into our routines. Physical exercise doesn't just impact our physical health, it has a direct and profound influence on our mental health and our brain function. Now, before we dive in, I want to make sure all of you have taken our Brain Animal quiz. So if you haven't yet, go to mybrainanimal.com. It only takes 4 minutes, but once you discover your cognitive type, whether you're a cheetah, an owl, dolphin, or an elephant, it changes the game. And tens of thousands of you have gone through this quiz. And when you do, you get a prescribed, personalized methodology for learning, for leading, for working in teams, for your productivity, your performance. And that could also inform how you exercise as well. So make sure you do that, mybrainanimal.com. And if you want to get extra points for yourself, for your learning in your life,
Oh, thank God, because I was going to say, this guy hasn't blinked in like several seconds. I was like, whoa, this is wild.
share it with your family, share it with your team. It is so enlightening. It is so informative. And that insight, knowing yourself, makes the biggest difference. And then having the courage to be yourself. So let's dive in.
After this advertisement. Okay.
Behind the science of working out and how it affects your brain. When we engage in physical activity, whether it's aerobic exercises like running or strength training exercises like weightlifting, several remarkable things happen inside our brains. First and foremost, exercise increases blood flow to the brain, right, which delivers vital oxygen and nutrients that support cognitive function. Additionally, exercise triggers the release of chemicals in our brains known as neurotransmitters. These neurotransmitters, such as dopamine, serotonin, and norepinephrine, play essential roles in regulating our mood, reducing stress and anxiety, and improving our overall sense of well-being. You know when you work out, how you feel afterwards. I don't think anyone's ever worked out and just regretted that they did that exercise, right? In fact, exercise has been shown to be just as effective as medication in treating mild to moderate depression and anxiety. Regular physical exercise also promotes the growth and development of new neurons, a process known as neurogenesis, particularly in the hippocampus, an area of your brain critical for learning and for memory. By engaging in exercise, we're literally enhancing our brain's capacity to learn, to process information, and retain memories. But the benefits don't stop there. Exercise also stimulates the release of brain-derived neurotropic factors, BDNF, often referred to as the fertilizer for the brain. BDNF promotes the growth of new connections between brain cells, enhances our brain's plasticity, and facilitates learning, problem solving, and creativity. And working out is free. Right. And so I want to encourage everyone, not just the few times a week doing your CrossFit or your Pilates, to move every single day. Most of us are behind screens and we're sitting behind screens, and they say sitting is the new smoking. So my personal routine, it contributes to my
We'll maybe go over his personal routine at the end. We're going to jump ahead a little bit. We're not going to watch the whole 14-minute video here, but go to his section where he talks about exercise in the brain. Gives us a little more rundown on it.
Research that talks about the benefits of it. I'm going to list it, as we always do, at jimquick.com/notes. I'll reference a lot of the studies there. And if you like to geek out over the science, then definitely go do a deep dive there and see the summary notes as well at jimquick.com/notes. I also have a number of resources for those of you who want to invest in certain equipment that allows you to get greater gains in your life, greater levels of endurance, greater levels of strength, greater levels of flexibility. Just like I am a brain coach, I want your thinking to be flexible. I want your memory to be sharper and stronger. I want you to have greater brain endurance and brain energy, if you will. It's all about nurturing your brains and enhancing our mental fitness, right, and our mental well-being. And you can incorporate these exercises into your daily routine and immediately almost experience greater focus, improved memory, reduce stress, right? They say as your waistline expands, your brain actually shrinks. So how can we combat that, right? And overall uplift our mood. And so some of the research that we talk about is research on cardio, right? And cardio fitness. There was a study done at Harvard Medical School, which we'll link in the show notes, discussing how cardio exercise actually improves brain health by increasing blood flow, stimulates the release of these growth factors, and actually reduces inflammation. And we'll put that link to the Harvard study in the notes. There was a study conducted at the University of British Columbia that discovered regular aerobic exercise, such as running or swimming, can improve cognitive function and may even help reverse the volume loss of your hippocampus typically seen in older adults. And we'll put
Ooh, we know that one because we looked at that one, right? That 2% that we looked at, remember that? The 100, what was it, 50 adults, 120, something like that? Yeah, that's the study we checked out. So,
That NCBI study also there in the show notes. One study published in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences found that regular aerobic exercise increases the size of the hippocampus, a brain region associated with learning and memory. And what about studies on strength training? Researchers from the University of Sydney conducted a study and found that individuals who engaged in resistance training demonstrated improved attention, improved memory, and improved ability to task switch, right? We talk about the difference between multitasking and task switching. We'll put that study also in the show notes. Harvard Health Publishing provides information on the benefits of strength training for brain health, includes its positive effects on cognitive function and mood regulation. So there's so much research on the power of exercise for your brain. And if you want to do a deep dive, I think that with these reasons, you get results. Knowing the reasons for something has to go from your head to your heart to your hands. But if you don't feel it, you're not likely to do it. And so I want to remind you, you don't have to do everything, but just start somewhere, anywhere, where we talk about S3 in our work, small.
so we're going to get into this section a little bit later here too. But yeah, so there you have it. Mr. What was this guy's name? Jim Kwik. 1.8 million subscribers. Subscribe. Give him a like on his video. That was a good video. I was a little unnerved at first because he just wasn't blinking. I was like, what is with this dude's eyes? How is he not blinking? But he blinked, and then I felt better about it. Okay, so next thing I wanted to go over. Oh yeah, we have another study here that kind of shows or discusses the biomechanics of how it works. Right. So let's take a look in that. And this was no, it wasn't. Okay. This was a short one. So we can go over everything here. So in this era of exponential growth of the metabolic syndrome and obesity, lifestyle modifications could be a cost-effective way to improve health and quality of life. Lifestyle modifications can assume especially great importance in individuals with serious mental health illnesses. Here, give me a second. I'm going to loading up my monitor latency thing. I got a different interface tonight. Came in a few days ago. So I'm going to be hooking that bitch up tonight. See if that gets rid of this damn crackling that I've been working on for months. Literally months. We'll see. Anyways, many of these individuals are at high risk of chronic disease. Oh no. Let's go back a sentence. Lifestyle modifications can assume especially great importance in individuals with serious mental health illnesses. Many of these individuals are at a high risk of chronic diseases associated with sedentary behavior and medication side effects, including diabetes, hyperlipidemia, and cardiovascular disease. An essential component, by the way, all three of those things, hyperlipidemia is really having really bad lipids or cholesterol. Cardiovascular disease, we went over that, and then diabetes. Again, all three of those are connected to sedentary behavior and connected to, well, not exercising. An essential component of lifestyle modification is exercise. The importance of exercise is not adequately understood or appreciated by patients and mental health professionals alike. Evidence has suggested that exercise may be an often neglected intervention in mental health care. Aerobic exercises, including jogging, swimming, cycling, walking, gardening, and dancing, have been proved to reduce anxiety and depression. These improvements in mood are proposed to be caused by exercise-induced increase in blood circulation to the brain and by an influence of the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis, or the HPA axis, and thus on the physiological reactivity to stress. This physiological influence is probably mediated by the communication of the HPA axis with several regions of the brain, including the limbic system, which controls your motivation and mood. I was just going to say that. The amygdala, which generates fear in response to stress, and the hippocampus, which plays an important part in memory formation as well as mood and motivation. Other hypotheses have been proposed to explain the beneficial effects of physical activity on mental health, including distraction, self-efficacy, and social interaction. While structured group programs can be effective for individuals with serious mental illness, lifestyle changes that focus on the accumulation and increase of moderate intensity activity throughout the day may be the most appropriate for most patients. Interestingly, adherence to physical activity interventions in psychiatric patients appears to be comparable to that in the general population. Okay. Exercise improves mental health by reducing anxiety, depression, and negative mood, and by improving self esteem and cognitive function. Exercise has also been found to alleviate symptoms such as low self esteem and social withdrawal. Exercise is especially important in patients with schizophrenia since these patients are already vulnerable to obesity and also because of the additional risk of weight gain associated with antipsychotic treatment, especially with the atypical antipsychotics. Patients suffering from schizophrenia who participated in a 3-month physical conditioning program showed improvements in weight control and reported increased fitness levels, exercise tolerance, reduced blood pressure levels, increased perceived energy levels, and increased upper body and hand grip strength levels. 30 minutes of exercise of moderate intensity, such as brisk walking for 3 days a week, is sufficient for these health benefits. Moreover, these 30 minutes need not to be continuous. 3 10-minute walks are believed to be as equally useful as one 30-minute walk. Health benefits from regular exercise that should be emphasized and reinforced by every mental health professional to their patients include improved sleep, increased interest in sex, better endurance, stress relief, improved mood, increased energy and stamina, reduced tiredness that can increase mental alertness, weight reduction, and reduced cholesterol and improved cardiovascular fitness. So there's a good list of the ways in which exercise helps to improve your mental health, right? And again, more discussion of improved health for schizophrenia, depression, all different kinds of shit, right? So, yeah, if you haven't gotten it yet, I just spent almost 2 hours telling you you should have it by now. It helps your mental health, okay? So, what type of exercises improve your mental health? My AirPods just disconnected. Hold on, give me a sec. Okay. Am I back? Nope, not yet. How about now? Yep. Okay, there I am. I'm back now. Okay. So, what kind of exercises help with it? Well, I could give you the whole rundown this article. It's a pretty long article. Or I'm just going to give you the skivvy right here. The participants of a particular study engaged in a variety of physical activities from yoga and Tai Chi to aerobics and dance and strength training. Some people had various health conditions while others were suffering from depression, anxiety, or post traumatic stress disorder. In the original studies, they or their clinicians rated their symptoms of depression, anxiety, and distress before and after each exercise program or treatment. The results suggested that exercising helped people reduce their depression, anxiety, and distress even more than usual treatments. Physical activity can be effective treatment for mental health problems. Yes, we know. Where was the. Oh, here it is. While the type of exercise didn't matter, people got more mental health benefits out of higher intensity exercise. If you're doing something that makes you breathe hard, in other words, that's a good sign. So, it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, it really doesn't matter what kind of exercise you're doing as long as you're doing some kind of exercise. Yes, the more intense it is, in this particular study, it says to help more, but that's not entirely necessary. Just getting exercise helps. So that concludes what I wanted to spend the majority of the stream doing, which was just prove to you, show you. One, here's the connection between your physical health, exercise, and mental health. Two, here's how that works. Here is why this connection exists, which we kind of spent the last 30 minutes going over or so. And now I kind of wanted to give you guys a rundown on how to get started, some tips and tricks, some things that could help you jump headfirst into this and start improving your mental health and decreasing your risk of dementia, because that is important. That one freaks me out. So, a couple quick recommendations from our very first source at the beginning of the stream. According to their report, The benefits of exercise and physical activity for mental health are most apparent when intensity is moderate to vigorous. We've kind of already heard this, right? Half a dozen times on this stream. At least moderate intensity. I forget her name. That doctor, I believe her name was Tracy, Dr. Tracy something. Dr. Tracy said, as long as you're breathing hard enough that you can't sing, then you're good. If you're not breathing hard enough, if you can sing or whistle while you're doing it, then you're not going hard enough. Okay. 2, it must occur at least several times per week. The baseline, most basic setup that we saw multiple times through the stream was 150 minutes, 2.5 hours in 30-minute intervals. So 5 times a week, right? Another study did 4 30-minute intervals, 120 total minutes a week. So 4 days a week at 30 minutes. You could split that up. One of the articles we just mentioned said you can split that up to 3 10-minute walks 4 times a day. Super easy. Number 3, engaging in a combination of aerobic and resistance training. Again, that's not necessary. That's optimization. To optimize how good this is going to be or how effective it is. Doing the both at the same time is the most helpful. And number 4, include mindfulness-based activities like yoga, tai chi, or qigong. I don't know what qigong is, but yoga, a lot of people really like the mindfulness. I would say personally, there's a lot of mindfulness in proper resistance training. If you are putting an appropriate amount of, if you're going about resistance training the correct way, for example, you are paying close attention to your rhythm, how fast you're going, what is it called? I'm going to totally forget this. The curl, what is it when you flex the shit balls? I can't believe I forget these words with how so much I've read them and heard them. It's just been a minute. But when you're pushing any weight up, that particular part of the exercise, you're going fast, and then a slow bringing down of the weights, a pause and a hold, breathe in, do the whole thing over again. Yeah, if you're focusing on your lifting rhythm, you're focusing on your breathing, and you're counting out your reps, there is a mindfulness there. Your mind is focused on these things. And then once you get all of that becomes like second nature. No, not bench presses. It's the word for flexing your muscle or for bringing the contraction. Oh my God, I can't believe it. I definitely need to work out more and smoke less pot. The contraction of the muscle, there's the contraction phase, which is the pushing of the muscle or pushing of the weight or wherever you contract the muscle. So the flexing of a muscle is contraction. And the decreasing, I always call it rarefaction. It's not rarefaction. That's a whole nother word for a whole nother thing. Contraction and rarefaction is what air waves do or what sound waves do. But it's contraction and I forget it starts with an E, the second half of the exercise. But in any case, contraction is the flexing of the muscle under tension. So if you're doing curls, the contraction is this, and then slow. So quick contraction, slow, bringing down. Okay. So in any case, yeah, focusing on your lifting tempo or your lifting rhythm, focusing on the count, focusing on your breathing. Once all those things become second nature, focusing on an actual mind-body connection, which is actually thinking about the muscle. Believe it or not, there are studies that have proven that increases the stimulus on the muscle. So you actually work your muscle harder when you're thinking about that muscle as you're curling, literally focusing on what your bicep feels like the feeling in your bicep as you're doing a curl improves the stimulus that curl provides, which is pretty crazy. So resistance training can absolutely be a mindfulness-based exercise if you're going about it the right way. But those are 4 good tips to start with. You definitely want some at least moderate intensity workout, at least multiple times a week. Optimization would be combining aerobic and resistance training and something that's mindfulness orientated is also better for optimization. So, how do you get started and stay with it? So, one, find something you enjoy doing. That's the most important. Remember that study that we went over on students in the university? It isn't what improved people's quality of sleep and their quality of life was not the intensity of the exercise or how often they were exercising or even the fact that they were exercising and getting healthier. It was the self perception of their health being good and their satisfaction with the exercise they did. And that second part, the satisfaction aspect, again, you can read the study for yourself. That comes from enjoying the exercise. Okay. So figure out what type of physical activities you're most likely to do. Then think about when and how you'd be most likely to follow through. For example, would you be more likely to do some gardening in the evening, start your day with a jog, or go for a bike ride or play basketball with your children after school? Doing what you enjoy can help you stick with it. That's the best advice in this whole stream. Pick a exercise or a series of exercise that generally make you excited to do them, that you enjoy doing them, right? That's so important. Um, okay, we can stop my latency on because my latency is perfectly fine, but I'm still getting that crackling. In any case, I can't wait to try that interface out. I wasn't gonna do it tonight, but I'm feel compelled to just because of that fucking crackle. So, anyways, pick an exercise that you legitimately enjoy doing. Norton, I swear to God, son. Ooh, what's going on? Sometimes Norton has good, useful information. It doesn't this time, though. All my drivers are up to date. Yeah. So, anyways, whatever. The That's important. Very simple, but very important. Definitely think about it. Pick exercises. Try something new. You know, try kickboxing classes. You never done kickboxing? Maybe try kickboxing classes. Just make sure you're picking something that gives you moderate intensity. Again, intense enough that you can't sing or whistle or hum a tune while you're doing it. Okay. Second tip here, get your healthcare professional support. Talk to your healthcare professional or mental health professional for suggestions and support. Talk about an exercise program or physical activity routine and how it fits into your overall treatment plan. That's, you know, yeah, it's important. But if you don't have like an actual mental health care professional because you're not, then I wouldn't go get one just to bring it over through them. If you're regularly talking, if you have either mental health issues or health issues that are currently you're dealing with, then yeah, definitely talk to your doctor first, right? That's very important. Set reasonable goals. This is an important one. Your mission doesn't have to be walking for an hour 5 days a week. Think realistically about what you might be able to do, then begin slowly and build up over time. Make your plan fit your own needs and abilities rather than setting goals that you're not likely to meet. This is an important one, okay? You're going to fade. You're going to fade. You're going to fail some goals in your life. It happens. We all do. And it's not a big deal. When you first get started, really set those goals to be reasonable. Just focus on tiny goals, man. You know what really made MMM, MMM, MMA? You know what really, I guess I want some M&Ms right now. You know what really made MMA fun for me was going, knowing that I'm going to get my ass kicked for the next hour. All the guys that I'm going to wrestle with are going to be better than me because I'm just getting started. And that's okay. The only reason I'm going is to get my ass kicked and prove that I can. That's it. I'm going in here, going to get my ass kicked and not like a little bitch about it. And every day that I did that was a success. And funny enough, it helped me like the respect that a lot of people in my gym had for me when I first got going. I instantly started meeting people. They started liking me. They started enjoying rolling with me. Right off the bat, I was making friends and people were showing me respect because I wasn't coming in here with an ego. All ego was out of it. It was like, bro, I know I'm going to get my ass kicked. It's totally fine. I'm okay with that. I'm just not going to act like a little pussy about it. And that means throw a hissy fit, throw an ego fit, dick measuring contest, whatever. It meant that when I jumped into my roles, I wasn't trying to prove anything. So the potential for me going too hard with people was very, very small because even when I did start wrestling with people, a few months into it, you start wrestling with new white belts and you're way ahead of them, especially if you're going multiple times a week, especially if you're also weightlifting on top of that, then you're going to succeed. You're going to excel pretty quickly. Even then, I wasn't running into a lot of situations where I was putting people were too scared to roll with me because even if I was beating them, I was regularly making them tap out. I wasn't putting them in a situation where they felt like they were in danger because beating them, proving how badass I wasn't a thing. I just wasn't there with this mindset. And for that reason, people got along with me really good in the MMA gym. So that's a reasonable goal too. Walk in an MMA gym. I haven't done this. Guess what? I'm going to get my ass kicked. The whole point is to get my ass kicked and act like a studly stud about it and not a little bitch. And that's a very reasonable goal. That's the best goal, one of the top best goals I've ever set for myself in life. That immediately set an enjoyable atmosphere for getting into MMA, wrestling, and all that good stuff. So just be reasonable about it. Too many people want to get started on their mental health journey, and the first thing they go to is, I'm going to get up at 5 a.m. and I'm going to run a mile. And it's like, okay, how long has it been since you've ran? And they're like, I don't know, years or never. And it's like, do you wake up at 5 a.m. every morning? And they're like, no, I wake up at like 7, 8. It's like, okay, don't do that. That's a bad goal. That's a really bad goal. Don't fuck yourself over that way, man. Instead, focus on getting up at your usual time and running. And if you're like, well, I don't have enough time to run then it's like, okay, get up an hour early and walk for 5 to 10 minutes. For 10 minutes, that's it. Just walk for 10 minutes. That's all you got to do. Just do that for at least the first 2 weeks, all right? Baby steps. Baby steps, baby. Baby steps. That's how you're going to develop a habit, right? Is starting small. When I started weightlifting, I started with the bar. No weights. I got the baby weights. I was over there doing my curls with 5 pounds. 5-pound deadlifts. Over here. Okay. I don't feel this is doing anything. Didn't matter. I just started with the lowest weight possible just for the sake of getting my technique down, especially with compound barbell lifts, right? Because those you can hurt yourself with. If you have very bad form, you can really fuck up your lower back, especially on things like deadlift and stuff like that. So I went in and started deadlifting the bar with 10 pounds on each side, only because that was the lowest weight I could go on an actual deadlift. And yeah, man, there was old ladies in the gym that were lifting more weight than me, giving me fucking looks like, look at this fucking pussy. And I was like, I don't even care. Like, again, starting small. I was never a physical person. I played sports, all through my childhood, but I sucked at every sport. And I never stuck with any sport because I sucked at it, but once I got into weightlifting, I just started with, I don't need to prove nothing to nobody or myself. I'm just starting with the smallest weight possible and just focusing on good quality form. And you know what? It was easy. And it made it easy to go do it every day. And then once I was a year, 2 year into it, it was a habit. It was a habit to do it every day. I just took 2 weeks off and I was never remotely worried about the idea that it would be hard for me to get back into exercising because I've been doing it almost every fucking day for like the last 5-6 years, so that's not a question. The idea of, oh, it's going to be hard to develop the habit. It's not, because I've been doing it for 5 years. Like, it's not something I think about. It's not a habit even to me. It's just like a part of my life. It's a part of my daily thing, So set reasonable goals. Set them small, okay? Next, don't think of exercise or physical activity as a chore. Oh, that's good. If exercise is just another should in your life that you don't think you're living up to, you'll think of it as a failure. Instead, look at your exercise or physical activity schedule the same way you would look at your therapy sessions or medicine, as one of the tools to help you get better. That's a good mindset. Good flipping the perspective here, right? You're flipping your perspective and thinking about it as something that benefits me versus something I just gotta do, fucking gotta do, because Tony talks about it, he's a fucking asshole. Like, no, just do it because it's gonna help me. You're doing it for you, right? I know people don't like him right now. I probably never will again, Will Smith, but he does have a good speech that used to be on the internet before he went out and slapped Chris Rock and made an ass out of himself. And back then he was like everybody's hero, this guy. He does have a really good speech that's somewhere still probably out on the internet where he says like exercise is a gift I give to myself. And again, this was something that I did on accident that ended up being really important to me, or really important in turning working out into such a staple of my life. When I started working out, I quit smoking cigarettes. And I said, my gift to myself is I'm going to go out and I'm going to get big and muscular. That's why I want to quit smoking cigarettes. That was a huge part of me quitting smoking, was it's going to make working out and being physically fit easier. It's going to make it easier for me to lift weights. It's going to make it easier for me to go to the gym. And I'm going to take advantage of that and actually work out and put myself in a position where for the first time in my life, I'm excited about my body and how it looks. That's the gift I'm going to give to myself. And thinking of exercising as a gift I am giving to myself completely flips the script, man. So that's great advice. Think about what keeps you from being successful. Figure out what's stopping you from being physically active or exercising. If you think about what's stopping you, you can probably find a solution. For example, if you feel self-conscious, you may want to exercise at home. If you stick to goals better with a partner, find a friend to work out with or who enjoys the same physical activities as you. If you don't have money to spend on exercise gear, do something cost-free such as regular walking. So yeah, again, good advice. A lot of people, I'll say this one right here. If you think about what's stopping you, if you are self-conscious. So a lot of people wouldn't believe me when I say it, but I used to be self-conscious about going in the gym. I felt like I was too small. Guys there would laugh at me because I don't deserve to be here because I'm too small to be in the gym, right? And I first started working out in my apartment complex at my apartment gym, right? And I did get an apartment that did have a really good gym, and I kind of lucked out and started working there. But I was so self-conscious that I wouldn't work out until midnight when nobody else was going to be in the gym. Then I would go into the gym and I'd work out. And, it still didn't work because the security guard at that current apartment complex, I used to sell him acid, and he would come in and fucking hang out with me when I was trying to work out. So I didn't get any privacy whatsoever. So inevitably, I just bit the bullet and said, fuck it. I'm going to just hit the gym. And was super self-confident, self-conscious for probably the first few months, at least, that I was in the gym, until I started getting to know people at the gym. And when I started to talk to people at the gym, including and most especially really big muscular guys, the guys that I thought would be laughing at me, and realized they didn't even fucking consider me. They just saw me every day. And in some cases, they were like excited for me. I had a guy randomly come up to me in the gym. I used to be a chubster, big old chubster, fucking big old chubby, cute chipmunk cheeks and big old fucking porcupine. And I started going to the gym. I started losing weight. When I lost a lot of weight, I had a random dude that I used to see every day at the gym walk up to me one day, and he just said, bro, you are doing such a good job, man. I got to let you know, dude, it is crazy how much you changed in like the last year. You're just fucking killing it, dude. Here in like another year, you're going to look amazing, bro. Like, you're doing so good. And I don't even know why he came up and said that. And that's all he said. He just said that and then walked away before he could even I could introduce myself to him, or even catch his name, right? And I didn't even think to do that, to be honest, because I was so blown away. I was like, what the fuck? Oh, thanks, bro. Shit. And man, that right there, I think those are one of those moments where it was like, boom, now I feel like I deserve to be here. I got rid of that imposter syndrome. And I'm like, this is my motherfucking gym, son. And then I was excited to be at the gym. And then once I had those big guys, that were bodybuilder guys coming up to me and hanging out with me and talking to me. They knew who I was. They were complimenting how long they see me here every single day. They're like, man, you're really in this, dude. Like, you're here every day, bro. Like, that's serious. You're serious about this shit. Then all of that went away. There was no longer any kind of feeling of self-consciousness, right? And it took time to get there, but that's a big one. A lot of people feel that way. I used to feel self-conscious about going to the gym, and the thing that helped me get over it was going to the gym. That's how I got over my self-consciousness about going to the gym, was just going to the fucking gym. So, you know, that's something to consider. And lastly, prepare for setbacks and obstacles. Like I said, we all fail at certain things in life. Give yourself credit for every step in the right direction, no matter how small. If you skip exercises one day, that doesn't mean you can't keep up an exercise routine and might as well quit. Just try again the next day, stick with it. Yeah, you're always going to have setbacks. That's a part of the deal. That's really good advice. And you know, is that definitely is plays precedent in my life, because like I've said in this stream, in a couple other streams, I have a hard time building muscle. You know, I'm a hard gainer, and I've put a lot of time and effort into learning how I could potentially build more muscle, all the little things that I could be doing as far as diet, nutrition, and exercising goes, you know, hormones, you know, what can I do to improve my muscle building abilities. And even still, with everything I've tried, I still get very minimal results from my workouts. You know, you would look at me if we walked by each other in a day, and you'd be clear. You'd be like, oh, yeah, this guy clearly works out, you know, but you would not, if I told you what I had gone through, how long I've been working out and how hard I've been working out, you probably wouldn't believe me. Most people don't, you know, because most people would look way bigger than me if they had worked out for as long as and hard as I had worked out, you know. And the thing that keeps me going though is I almost give myself even more credit for that, because it makes it even more difficult to stick with, you know. The thing is, you're going to run into setbacks like this. Everybody does. You know, on another, to bring somebody else's story into this, I know a guy who does have really good genetics, and he blew up in like his first 6 months of working out. He was like immediately a bigger guy, had to change his shirt size, went from like wearing medium shirts to large size shirts because his muscles blew up so much in just 6 months. And I was so stumped and blown away by how quickly he built muscle. And then a little while later, about a year later, he wanted to cut down so he could get a six pack. And he cut down to sub 10% body fat and couldn't get a six pack after all the effort that he put into doing crunches. And I mean, he was putting so much effort into building up his six pack and then dieting so he could see it. Never did get his six pack. Best he got was like a 4-pack, you know? And in the meantime, you go look at my Instagram story, or that's the only post I ever had on Instagram, was me flexing with my six pack. Cause man, I had an 8-pack. I didn't have a six pack. I had a six pack to spare. I could have given him a part of my six pack and still had a sexy six pack. You know, God gave me too many muscles on my six pack. You know, I even got the end of my six pack, the very bottom of it. You know, I got an 8-pack. I got a little bit of a 10-pack. Like I call them my dick muscles, or my dick pack. I got a dick pack. It's tiny little muscles right above, well, my nether regions that are part of my six pack. And, you know, it just shows the difference. Here's me, and I'm related to this guy, right? Me and him share the same genetics more or less, but whatever he got some genetics, you know, lottery that made it real easy for him to build muscle. Whereas for me, it's real difficult to build muscle mass. And then on the flip side of that, he struggles with his six pack. He doesn't have a six pack. It doesn't matter how low his body fat gets. You can't see a six pack. Like The Rock. Go look at The Rock. He's sub 10% body fat. You ain't seeing his six pack. He ain't going to have one. And it's just his genetics. It's called muscle placement, or muscle insertion placement is what it's called. And some people, that's the difference between, some people flex their bicep and it's like this tiny muscle that bunches up like right here. And other people, flex their six pack, and it's just a nice big, nice, perfectly round bubble right there. You know, some people got tiny biceps and some people got just giant balloon biceps. That's just your muscle insertions. It's different for everybody. Genetics plays a huge role in it. The difference between short calf muscles and long Achilles tendons and big calf muscles and short Achilles tendons. It's all genetics. And in any case, yeah, this kid got the poopy ab genes and I got the really good ones, right? So my ab genes were like, fucking A, man, I got an 8-pack over here, right? I got a 6-pack on my 6-pack. My 6-pack has its own little mini dick pack, right? So, you know, it's just genetics. The thing is, everybody's going to run into situations where you're going to have setbacks. And it doesn't matter. This is just in terms of resistance training. It doesn't matter if you're just focusing on aerobics. If you go in to do wrestling, you're going to have setbacks. You know, I had that in the wrestling area too, doing wrestling and jiu-jitsu and doing the MMA thing. You're going to have times when you go in and just have a shitty session. You know, you've been working your ass off and today you go in and then the new white belt pops in and you're like, oh, I can eat this kid's fucking lunch, man. I've been doing this for a while now. I'm doing 5 weeks. You know, I'm going to maul this motherfucker. And then he just beats your fucking ass. And you're just like, dude, did I just get beat by this guy whose first day? And yeah, you did. It is what it is. You're going to have setbacks. You know, that's just a part of life. Whatever goals you have, even when you set reasonable goals for yourself, there's going to be moments in life where you can't meet those goals. It just is what it is. You can't beat yourself down and stop, though. Again, if you didn't check out my importance of goal setting stream, I feel like that's the best stream I've ever did, was that goal setting stream. And go check that out on my YouTube channel. Ended up being like a 5-hour fucking stream because I love talking about that. Setting goals is a big part of my life. You know, that drives me in my life. If I don't have goals, I'm just dead weight. I'm just floating. I got, you know, and life sucks for me. It doesn't matter. Give me $2 million, a fucking mansion, and everything else a person could ever possibly want in their life. And if I don't have goals, and I'm not meeting those goals, or at least working towards them, my life just fucking blows. Like, I'm just depressed. I'm going to be a negative little Eeyore all day long. And so check that stream out because that was a good stream. But like we talked about on the goal setting stream, you know, when you don't meet your goal, the worst thing you can do is quit. You know, that's when you can't get to your goal, just accept that, look, I didn't get it this time. There was things that popped up, half measures, life hurdles. Those are all concepts we talked about on that goal stream. Those things pop up. They're going to stop you. Don't let it actually stop you. You know, it can mean you didn't get as much done this month as you wanted or this week or whatever, but it's not an excuse to stop working towards your goals, right? So, and then we got some more advice for y'all. So exercise, prescription, some other tidbits that can help. One, start small. We kind of already talked about that, right? We already talked about that with the last one. That's a big one, though. That's a very important one. Again, best advice, just set reasonable goals, tiny itty bitty baby goals. Don't start, you know, work your workout routine. Well, I'm getting up at 5 a.m. and going to run 6 fucking miles. Don't do that. You know, unless you run 5.5 miles every day and you already wake up at 5:30, then okay, yeah, shoot for waking up at 5 now. Instead, get up a half hour earlier and shoot for another mile. But if you haven't ran in like 10 years and you wake up at like 10, don't shoot to wake up at 5 and run 5 miles off the back. You know, shoot for waking up at 9 and walk a quarter of a mile. Start small, seriously. And then if it's too small, you can always amp up, but it's better than going too hard and fucking your body up or depleting your energy and what's the word? Overwhelming yourself out the gate. Don't want to do that, right? Find an activity you enjoy. Already we went over that. Make it a habit. The more you exercise, the easier it becomes. Try to make exercise a regular part of your routine. Set realistic goals, reward yourself. Ooh, we talked about that on our goal list, right? That was on that goal. Check out that past stream on my YouTube channel. Reward yourself. Celebrate those goals. Cutie pie. I'm always telling you, celebrate them sweaters you made. And now you just made little booties and cute little beanie. So now we gotta celebrate that too. I'm not gonna let you not. And don't give up. Don't quit. Okay. So for your consideration, I wanted to give you some resources that were huge to me when I started working out and I got into my fitness journey. One is Renaissance Periodization. This is a awesome channel. It's got tons of subscribers because of how awesome this channel is. This guy, Mike, over here looking all intense. He's a really funny dude. This guy right here. Yeah, he's a big boy, muscular, knows what he's doing, knows what he's talking about, but he's so fucking funny. And he's very entertaining to watch. He's got tons of degrees in this shit and knows what he's doing. So definitely check this channel out. Very good resource for you if you're just getting into your, or even if you're in the middle of a weightlifting journey or an exercise journey, dieting journey, whatever it is. Check this dude out, right? And then Jeff
next
Nippard.
year, I'm going to train as perfectly as humanly.
Another really smart guy that's just really good at supplying you with very easy to understand and useful information for helping you on your weightlifting journey. He's more specifically just for weightlifting, but he does do some aerobic stuff and some dieting stuff. Let's look here if I got the other guys in here. That's okay. I know their names. Another really funny and entertaining dude is Johnny Shreve. Yeah, not subscribed. Let's subscribe to Johnny. I'm subscribed to my other channel. Another guy who's really entertaining, makes really good videos. He does have like this reaction videos that it has nothing to do with fitness for the most part, but he's got some really good workout tutorials, Renaissance Periodization and Jeff Nippard are going to really help you nail in your diet and your programming. And Johnny Shreve can really entertain you and give you some good weightlifting and workout tutorials. And then a good one for dieting. Oh, I let a burp get out of the way. It's okay. Thomas DeLauer. This guy really knows his dieting. He's done, there's a video of him and Dr. Mike. This guy really, really knows his dieting. He puts a lot of effort into understanding these studies, reads through them all the way, gives you the study, points to it in his video, and anything you could ever possibly need to know about dieting, Thomas DeLauer is going to help you out there. That's a really good resource too. There's another good resource I like.
Great reasons to get.
Except for when he interrupts me. This guy right here, The Bioneer. Let's subscribe. Give this video a like. So, The Bioneer is a really good at motivation. This guy's a very motivating YouTube channel, particularly in the vein of getting you motivated to work out, right? So I'll link this video at the end of in the description to the YouTube video. I was going to save it to watch at the end, but I'm already over on my time, and I actually got a lot that I need to do today, and I think only my cutie pie is watching the stream right now. So it's a perfect time for me to go ahead and end my stream. So I was going to watch this with you, but I'll link it in the description. This guy's got a really motivating speech here on fitness and mental health. That's really helpful and has got a lot of good messages to it. So make sure you check this video out, especially if you watched my video all the way to the end. Just a 15-minute video, and it'll really help you out. So that concludes today's Mental Health Monday. And I hope if you stay tuned through the video, watched it till this long, I hope you learned something from it. I hope you enjoyed yourself. If you did, please leave a like and subscribe to the channel. And be sure to check out next Mental Health Monday. That'll be at 5 p.m. again. And we will be going over, went past it. I guess I haven't decided on next Monday. So stay tuned. I don't know what that topic's going to be. Tomorrow is Terrifying Tuesdays. So if you like scary shit, then tune in tomorrow. We're going to be going over the myths and legends of Alaska. So I'm really excited about that stream. Terrifying Tuesdays are always one of my favorite days. That'll happen at 5 p.m. tomorrow. So tune in for that. In the meantime, thank you to everybody who watched. Cutie Pie, as always, thank you so much. Always appreciate your support. And to anybody else that hopped into the stream, I knew a few people hopped in then and there. Appreciate those people coming by to check it out. If you watch the YouTube video, I appreciate your support as well. And hopefully I will see you guys tomorrow. Peace.